Guys, equations of circles, the last piece. This was sort of a little lesson taught in isolation last year, but we can remember from our unit circle discussion that we had before that points on the circle are made up of right triangles, right? So we talked about how every point on the circle can be found by using right triangle trig, right? So if I want to know, if I know my x value and my y value, in order to find the radius, I do x squared plus y squared equals radius squared, right? I use the Pythagorean theorem here. So this comes from the Pythagorean theorem. So when I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, it's the same thing as x squared plus y squared equals r squared, right? My x value plus my y value equals my radius value squared there. So when I look at the first example, given the equation below, what is the center and radius of the circle? Okay, a couple of things we talked about when we translate this. So the unit circle is always at 0, 0 in the middle, right? But that's not true for a lot of circles. We could shift the circles around. We could have 0, 0, and then our circle be up here, right? We can shift circles and move them around. So when these shifts happen, remember this is not a function. Why is it not a function? Because it doesn't pass the vertical line test. I don't just have one output for every input. So it behaves slightly differently from a function. So remember, when I have these different shifts in position, these shifts in parentheses, it's always opposite. So this is actually moving one right, and this is actually moving down 4 because it's in parentheses, right? So the center is going to be at +1, -4. And the radius, remember it's a squared plus b squared, so it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, c squared is 9. That must mean the radius was 3 when I put it in that equation. Okay, so that's a quick refresher. Let's look at another example. Number 24, find the equation of the circle if we have the center and the point of the circle. Okay, so slightly different. So I know the center would be x plus 13 squared plus, so a squared plus b squared, so y plus 16 squared equals, now I just need my r squared, my radius squared. Well, I need to figure out if the center is at -13, -16. So let's do our graph here. This is at -13, -16. Okay, and then the point is at -10. So if I move this point, so from -13 to -10, I went 3 spaces, right? So from the center to here, I went 3. Well, if I'm trying to make the radius, that means the diameter would have been 3 in this direction to make the full circle, right? Because that's the center. So the radius must be 3, but I have to square it, so it's going to be 9. So if my radius is 3, 9 must be the piece of my equation. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the big idea here is make sure you remember to switch your signs because those shifts are happening in parentheses, and make sure you know how to find that radius and make sure it's squared in the equation. Okay, let's look at an SAT example. Go ahead and pause the video here if you haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And then once you've tried it, check back in with the answer. So which of the following is an equation of a circle in the xy plane with center -2, 0 and an area of 49 pi? Okay, well first I see that all of them have the same y squared. Why is it just y squared with nothing in parentheses? Well, because it's 0, right? But I do notice that some have x -2 and some have x +2. So I can easily eliminate a couple of answer choices just by figuring that out. Well, we talked about how this is a shift in the opposite direction, so it would actually be x +2 squared. So I can instantly eliminate A and C. Okay, so now I'm stuck with B and D, and the only difference is this 7 and 49. Well, what does that represent in the a squared plus b squared equals c squared? That represents your radius. So what does it say about the radius? If it has an area of 49 pi, okay, well, I need to remember the area formula for a circle. Area is pi r squared. So if the area is 49 pi, that must mean r squared equals 49, right? So what would be the radius? The radius is 7, okay? But in the equation, it's always radius squared, so 49 actually would go in the equation. The correct answer is D. Remember, some of these are very simple, some of them are tricky. So remember what that word tangent means. So if you look at number 25, tangent means it touches at that point. It's kind of like a simplified version of the definition. But if it's tangent to x equals 13, it means that vertical line, the circle is going to touch. It's going to make a right angle at that point. So just make sure you remember what tangent means. And then again, down here, you've got a couple of options with tangent. Okay, so if you're confused with that, shoot me an email and stop by office hours, but also please work through 25 and 27 and check your answers at the bottom of this page. Okay, good luck, guys. If you have any questions, email me and stop by office hours. Have a great rest of your day.